If you've ever wanted to start a social media marketing business or really any business in general, you're going to want to listen very closely to this episode because in it, I'm going to be sharing exactly how I started my very first social media marketing agency, as well as give you 3 of my best tips for how to get more clients. All right, let's get to it. Hey there, my name is Erhart, marketing strategist, and welcome to the Marketing Show. Alright, so I've been in the social media marketing or digital marketing game for the better part of a decade now, but it wasn't always this way. Much like most people who kind of get into this field, well, this field is relatively new, so it really didn't exist, certainly when I was growing up, and it makes me sound super old, but that's just the reality of the situation. This is something that really has developed over the past few years. It's also an incredible opportunity, and in fact, it's probably one of the best business models available if you're struggling and you don't really know what to do or how to do it, or whether you're in high school or in college or you're working a 9 to 5 and you're trying to find a side hustle or a way to escape the rat race and you really don't know what to do. Well, a social media marketing agency or a digital consulting business is one of the best tools available simply because it's going to allow you to provide an incredibly valuable service to business owners or other entrepreneurs and do something that they don't really want to do themselves, and you can learn relatively quickly, but of course it's going to take a little longer to master. I'm getting ahead of myself though. Let's start right at the beginning. All right, so let's rewind to 8 or 9 years ago when basically I was working as a business jet captain. So essentially my job was to be the pilot for different business jets and different Forbes billionaires and royalty and celebrities, and we'd fly all around the world, stay at some of the best places ever, and it really was probably one of the greatest jobs that anyone could ever imagine. That said, really wasn't for me, and so I toughed it out for a long time. I did that job for, I think, maybe 7 years, and then really realized that this just wasn't for me. So I had to give up flying, moved back home, and decided, all right, what am I going to do next? And it was in a conversation with my wife where we're trying to figure out, all right, what am I going to do now that I no longer want to go back to flying, but I really don't know what else to do? And she suggested, why don't I look into marketing? Now, this is where things get a little bit embarrassing, but hopefully also inspiring in the fact that if I can do this, well, then you can absolutely do this too. Because back 8 years ago, when my wife first said, hey, you should look into marketing, I really had no idea what marketing was. Like, literally almost no idea what marketing was at all. Sure, I'd been interested in sales and I'd been interested in business and I'd read a lot of books, and even while I was flying, I was still doing sitting in on some deals when we were selling or buying new business jets and things of that nature. So I had a basic understanding of kind of business and sales and marketing, but in regards to going out there and starting my own agency or whatever this was even going to entail, I basically started from complete scratch. So what I did is what I was kind of brought up to do, being an elder millennial, we'll call it. So basically what happened when I first graduated from high school is that pretty much everybody, you either had to go to college or go get a job. And so that's the path I followed right away. Went to business school and studied aviation, obviously, to become a pilot. Well, once I was done with flying, it was kind of like, all right, what am I going to do? So I went back to school and actually started doing a marketing degree. Now, I truly believe that it was the marketing degree that helped me launch a really successful career that's really lasted the better part of a decade and really given me some good foundational knowledge. However, I also strongly believe that going back to school and getting a degree specifically for marketing is definitely not the best path for everyone. It's very individual, it's very subjective, and it's going to depend on how you learn and how you like to learn and what exact skills that you even want to learn in the first place. Now, the value of going to college or going to university or post-secondary education in general is a completely different subject for a completely different video, but at least for me personally, provided a ton of value and really gave me a strategic foundation to build on, especially in that first year when we were studying things like accounting and economics and finance and basically all the business stuff that was going to come in really handy a lot later down the road. But what's equally, if not more important, is that when I made the decision to, all right, I'm going to go back to school, I'm going to study marketing, I'm going to figure this thing out, I'm going to start doing marketing, really whatever that is. Well, at the same time that I enrolled in my very first class, I also started my agency, basically from scratch with no knowledge at all. It was in these early years of my agency, and really even the early months and probably even the early weeks and days, that I pretty much did everything and anything that anybody would want because I was absolutely committed and dedicated to learning whatever I needed to learn, which meant that for starters, I leveraged all of the skills and all the experience I had as a pilot, which sounds kind of weird because it's not like I was flying people around, but I still had a ton of experience in doing organizational tasks and some business strategy and planning, and basically anything that anybody needed help with, I would do. At the same time, I was also starting to learn as much as I could about everything I could about marketing. So in those early days, I did some business consulting, I did a lot of web design, I started doing basic organic social media stuff, which back then was actually a really tough sell because people still didn't understand the value of it, but I would basically do anything that anybody wanted. I'm pretty sure if somebody asked me to wash their car, I'd have probably done that too. In fact, looking back, one of my favorite memories, which at the time was a terrible memory, but one of my favorite stories at least, is one of my first Facebook ads clients. This was certainly an early adopter, someone that was willing to take a risk on Facebook ads. Well, they paid me a total of $100 for basically an entire campaign that included me having to drive to their office, do a 1-hour meeting and presentation, set everything up, run the ads, drive back to their office later to do a debrief, and basically do everything involved. Something now I'd charge thousands and thousands of dollars for, and probably still wouldn't even have to go and visit them at their office. Basically, at the time, I was making, well, certainly less than minimum wage. But that was okay, because I needed the experience, I needed the case study, I needed to do anything I could to sort of basically get that experience and sort of to kind of build up my resume and build up my portfolio of results. And this leads me to tip number 1 on how to get more clients, especially in those early days of starting a social media marketing agency. And that is, be willing to do the things that others are unwilling to do. There's this really touchy subject right now where it seems to be really polarizing, with people falling on two different camps of you should never ever work for free, or you should definitely work for free to get experience. And I'm going to definitely fall more into the camp of you should work for free to get experience, or certainly very cheap, like $100 for an entire campaign, which took I don't even know how many hours. But regardless, working for free is a fantastic way, especially if you have no experience, because why would anybody trust you? Well, they'll trust you because they've really got nothing to lose by giving you a chance. And then what you can do is, if you do a good job, which hopefully you will, you can leverage the experience, you can leverage the testimonial, you can hopefully get a referral, and you can then sort of basically leverage this into more and better clients and really grow your agency from there. Also, in regards to doing things that others are unwilling to do, well, looking back in the early days, I did a lot of very unpleasant things, including going to a ton of local networking events, many of which were first thing in the morning or incredibly late at night. I would do as many speaking opportunities as I could. I would put on as many presentations as I could. I'd get in front of as many people as I could. I was basically trying to make myself as publicly visible and available as humanly possible. Was it comfortable? No, not a chance, but it worked incredibly well. Looking back, working for free and working for cheap may at times have been a little bit discouraging, but at the end of the day, I really was focused on mastering this craft, because I truly believe that if you want to get into something, it's worth doing to the best of your ability. This is especially true in the world of social media marketing, which if you're just getting in, you may not have seen this yet, but if you're around for any length of time, you're going to see a ton of new people come onto the scene, make all sorts of bold promises, deliver on none of them, and then disappear. I couldn't even tell you how many people I've seen that have come in basically 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, even last year, come onto the scene, made a ton of claims, claim that they're going to take over the world, then just fizzle out and fade away because they really didn't spend the time and basically dedicate themselves to the craft and to delivering an absolutely world-class service for their clients. Anyway, another incredibly unpopular topic, or certainly polarizing topic, is the amount of work hours that I put in the early days of the business. No secret, but I put in 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week for months, years, basically never took a vacation and just kept hustling and kept grinding and all of those cliched entrepreneur words that we're never really supposed to talk about. Now, I did make sacrifices and it cost me certainly damage to relationships, and it put a strain on my family, and it did all sorts of really kind of damaging things that I may have fixed a little bit if I could go back and maybe worked a little bit less. But at the end of the day, the results kind of speak for themselves, and I was very quickly able to take my agency from $0 a month to $1,000 to $5,000 to $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, and it just kept growing by continually reinvesting time and energy and resources back into the agency. Now, a key part of this obviously wasn't just putting in more hours, because eventually you are going to burn out and you are going to suffer from overwhelm, and there's only so much work that you can actually do. So the next thing that was responsible for helping to grow the agency was by really doing an 80-20 analysis of the entire business and of the services that I offered. So basically the old Pareto's principle here, looking at whatever 20% of services I was offering that was delivering 80% of my results, as well as taking a look at all of my clients and finding the top 20% of my clients that were delivering 80% of my revenue, and then really focusing in there. I also had to get really honest and self-aware and really be honest with myself about what kind of things I was doing that I loved and what kind of things I was doing that I absolutely hated and didn't want to do anymore. And fortunately, when I sort of laid everything out on the table and I took a look at, all right, these are my best clients and these are the services that generate the most revenue and these are the services that I love doing the most, well, things started to get pretty clear and I found a few things that I was doing that I wanted to do more of, like SEO and online ads like Facebook ads and Google ads, and I found a few things that weren't necessarily suited for my skill set, like web design. And this leads me to my second tip on how to get more clients, which is to really dial in your sweet spot, which is essentially the overlap between three different areas. Number one being market demand. So this is what clients actually want to pay you for, not what they say they're going to pay you for, but what they actually want and what they actually need. Incredibly important, I know this is going to sound obvious, but incredibly important that you're going to be selling something that people actually want. The second thing is you've got to have skill or some kind of knowledge or expertise in this area, because obviously you're going to want to be able to deliver a quality service or product. Kind of no surprise there either. And then the third part, this is probably the least important, certainly in the beginning, still worth saying, is you should at least be interested and hopefully even passionate about whatever it is that you're trying to sell. And when you've kind of got the overlap between market demand and skill and interest or passion, well, this is where you really want to laser focus in and really double down there. The beauty is that when you do that, when you find an area with market demand that you're good at, that you actually enjoy, your results will take off incredibly fast because you're going to be able to be a lot more targeted in who you approach and the offers that you make to them, as well as the results that you're able to deliver. All right, so it's at this point that the agency has now been running for a good few years. It's delivering great profits, clients are getting good results, but the problem is that I'm putting in just an ungodly amount of hours, and it's kind of killing me slowly or quickly. This is why to scale my agency, I finally got smart. I finally clued in to everything that I'd studied and everything that I'd been told in all of my masterminds and all of the coaches and mentors that I'd worked with, and I finally started to hire a team of people and outsource and delegate and really focus in even more on my sweet spot and really letting go of a whole lot of other stuff. The advice that I was given that I'd like to pass on to you is to first start by delegating or outsourcing things that you're not good at or that you really don't enjoy. For me, that was bookkeeping and accounting. I remember having to go through all of my receipts and having to go over all my financials, and it was just a complete and utter nightmare. Not to mention, I was probably messing a ton of stuff up. So that was the first thing to go, and I highly recommend that one. The beauty is that once I got a taste for really letting go of some control and really relying on other people's expertise and experience, things started to pick up even quicker, and I was able to hire an assistant and then an operations manager and then podcast editors and web designers to pick up that area of the business that I'd let go, as well as video editors and other social media managers, and the team really grew and evolved from there. But there was another factor here that started to come into effect that was really responsible for really helping to scale the agency, and that's that I tended, at this point, looking back, well, this was about the point that I accumulated 10,000 hours of study, of experience, and of practice into my craft. It's not like I all of a sudden hit like 10,001 hours and all of a sudden became an expert, but it was definitely around this period of time where looking back and adding up all the time that I'd spent studying and doing this and taking on clients and all the stuff that goes into the business, well, it certainly rounded out to around that number. And I really started to feel like a true expert and authority in the fields of social media and digital marketing in general. So whether it was the simple accumulation of time in the trenches and putting in all those hours of study, or whether it was finally getting smart and wising up to the fact that I could have other people help me and that was okay, well, regardless, it was at this point that I felt like I finally cracked the code and I finally started treating my social media marketing and my digital marketing agency like a proper business. And this is what brings me to tip number 3 on how to get more clients that I want to share with you here. You see, when it comes to running a social media marketing agency, There's the hard part and then there's the easy part, and these often get kind of confused. Most people think that the hard part is actually going out there and doing the work, creating the social media posts, running the ads, doing whatever you need to do to basically get the results, when in reality, that's actually the easy part, and there's a ton of other people that you can hire or outsource to or delegate or whatever to help you with the mechanics and the technical aspects of marketing. The hard part is the actual going out there and generating the clients, the interfacing, the listening to client concerns and to analyzing their needs and to really diagnosing their problems and what is going to be the best solution for them. And that really just comes through being really empathetic, being somewhat good at sales, and also always trying to serve them to the best of your ability. This is why tip number 3 is kind of an extension of tip number 2, but not only do you want to find your sweet spot, you want to make sure that you're using your skills and your ability in the highest value tasks possible to drive your business forward. And my thoughts are probably, especially if you're watching this video here now, that your best value is going to be in communicating the value of your agency, in doing business development, in interfacing with clients, in generating referrals and reviews, and basically all of the client-facing part of the business. This is easily one of the most important roles of your business. So if that's you, fantastic, make sure to double down there. And if not, you're going to want to make sure sooner than later, probably today, that you get somebody into that role because it's just so incredibly important to building a thriving agency. And that brings us to today, where I now have controlling shares in 4 different agencies serving different markets and industries, but all built and all grown based on the principles that I've shared with you here today. This is because learning to grow your agency, learning to generate clients, learning to get great results, and learning marketing in general, well, these are learnable skills that you can absolutely put in the time and energy and blood, sweat, and tears into essentially acquiring. I'm proof of that. I know it sounds horribly cliche, but really, if I can do it, you can do it too. And that's a good thing because there's a lot of people out there who really need your help. And by delivering this service and by offering this value to them, you have the potential to change a lot of businesses and a lot of lives and be well rewarded for it. All right, the next thing you're going to want to do is check out the video I have linked up right here on digital marketing strategies for small business, which is going to give you a ton of great tips to help get you rolling. So check it out now, and I'll see you in the next episode.
A $500 profit on each one of these decisions. Another example is, let's say that you're investing in a certain market.